Coffee with the Summerland Kids. It's Monday, June 7th. It's mostly sunny in Summerland. It's 56 currently with a high of 77. 7's a pretty good, temp for Summerland. It's kind of like flawless Summerland beach days, right?
Yeah, 77 is you can't get much better than that, I don't think.
I know, right? I mean, beach and the whole we're just approaching summer. I guess on the 20th is this Thursday is the official. So it's kind of on,
Yeah, it's a good time to be in Summerland.
Yeah, totally. And up here, it's really turned on with the whole in the mountain town of Pagosa Springs. It feels kind of like living in a national park or something like that, where you have all the people for the weekends. There's a big weekend community that comes in. I want to say there's the folks who have their second homes or whatever their little. I think by now the kids are out of school. I'm just thinking that kids jump in the car with the parents and make the trips now, right?
Yeah, I remember it was always around the 15th of June.
Yeah.
And I guess the first day of summer or the equinox or the solstice thing is June 20th or 21st or something.
Yep. Yeah. So they'll probably have that. I've been a little, but it's interesting. I bet that it'll probably be on the 22nd, Saturday solstice parade. I believe it should be fully summer solstice parade, I'd imagine,
Yeah, the days get longer and then they get longer and then they start getting shorter, and it's the middle of summer, but they seem longer.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I mean, it seems like staying light past 8 o'clock for sure out here now. I mean, we're in Santa Barbara. I was actually in the solstice parade officially. One of my buddies, Paulie X, makes these inflatable floats for the parade, and he was always I think called himself the Fabulous Finish or something like that. He'd have a large plate, and his shit was inflatable, so he'd have a little cart that they would put the sleeve. Everything was manpower, pull power, no motorized vehicles in the parade. And he'd have a little I think it was obviously a small little generator, constantly keep inflating because his sculptures were inflatable, like plastic inflatables. It's pretty cool.
Hey, Jericho, are you getting a little skipping on my side?
No, you're coming in clear. But do you want to refresh on your side?
I like to refresh. Yeah,
because
do it. You're skipping a bit, and that's fun.
Okay.
It's fun to do stuff.
Yeah. Summerland Kids, what's up? Good morning, everybody. Monday. It's June. We're just getting rolling here. Refreshing if you can see me. I have no idea. Here we go. Yay.
I can see you.
Hey, we're back. Okay. Hopefully we're not skipping town.
Hopefully not too much.
So it's obviously still hot up there, huh? It just doesn't stop.
It's been really nice. It's been like in the morning, there's actually a little bit of a chill in the air, and it hasn't broken 90 yet this weekend. So it was nice and mild for around here, 85-ish.
Okay.
In the hottest part.
Cool. Nice. Is it all, or is it just totally sunny?
It's a little bit, I mean, you don't really see the clouds, but you can see it kind of hazy, high clouds, kind of light cloud cover, I guess is what you'd call it.
Right. That's cool. Yeah. So on the weekend and couple times, because it's like the hot of the river. There's a place that's in town that we found where there's a couple parking spots. You get your spot close and walk down to the riverside edge, and there's a bunch of what would you call it, like reeds and little plants by the river that you try to get some shade. It's pretty darn hot and sunny, so you're trying to be in a slightly shady spot. And then just this weekend was the first time I actually jumped in there and sort of floated down. People are doing the tubing season, I think, just for the people floating down the river in the inner tubes. And then floating down the river on other things, like, of course, the river rafting. And then I saw a couple people floating down on paddle boards, actually. So because to me there seems like a couple spots where it's a little shallow, so you have like rocks that are like maybe only 1 foot under, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I guess you got to be careful. We went down to the river, Feather River, last week, and there's the whole Orville nature preserve area. So there's like on both sides of the river. It's really interesting because in Orville there's a bunch of tailings. There's like huge tailing piles of boulders or river rocks, that are like that big, where they just piled them up. They were scooping out all the gravel and getting all the gold out.
Oh, wow. Huh. So is there the side of the river, or is it kind of like a lot of rocks, or?
There's a lot of rocks, but there's a couple little beachy spots that have kind of a little bit of sand, gravelly type stuff.
Right. You probably have to bring an umbrella, huh? If you want to kick it up.
There's a couple little spots, because it is a nature preserve, so there are trees. You just have to be careful.
Yeah.
Because it is wildlife preserve. There's snakes and rattlesnakes.
Okay. Yeah. Is the river is it warmer now? Chilly?
It's chilly. My friend was telling me that it depends on how much water they release, right?
Okay.
So the water goes after it comes out of the dam. Part of it splits off to what's called the forebay and afterbay, right? And I guess that's extra water storage. And depending on how much they release on certain sides, like if you're near the afterbay where they're releasing it, it'll be a little bit warmer. But generally it's pretty cold.
Yeah. It's, I was saying, he thought it was 50 something degrees, which is for sure. The Blanco River, which is closer to my house, is actually a lot a smaller river. There's not as much flow coming through it, so areas seems to be a lot warmer over San Juan. The San Juan River comes right off the Continental Divide. It's straight up like snow melt. The melted snow water, really brisk, I want to say.
Yeah, that snow melt gets chilly, really chilly, real quick.
Exactly. So we're gonna inventory of the comics, and we've made it through. We're working on Grandpa, and we're finding that a lot of his collection does consist of stuff with Katie Keene in it and with his other characters. I guess he did a Key and Ditto, and then he did some characters called the Twiddles, and which I think Keene definitely lesser known on his behalf. On the of course, Katie Keene fan page is all about Katie Keene, and a Katie administrator Robert will throw up some stuff from my uncle thing. So that's, but I've kind of considered starting to maybe a little more well-rounded. I don't know how. I mean, I personally, I know we're getting close on the comic books. I'm kind of considering magazines and books all one category. And books, there's probably, if I had to guess, maybe 2 boxes of like 30 books or something in his personal collection, like a library, and then an assortment of titles that he did after Katie Keene, of course. So we'll be able to get through that category.
Yeah, get all the comic books and magazines organized, kind of the mainstream stuff, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of, I imagine, tons and tons of reference materials, like you were telling me before. Grandpa didn't have access to the internet like we do.
Exactly.
And so that was like you're saying, that's Grandpa's internet. All the different files and image types and different things that your grandpa referenced. To draw from.
Absolutely, yeah. And we basically, right now, I think we have 3,500 of the plastics. We're stocked up on those for the moment, but we're inventory that category, and Jason's creating a digital list like box 1, so each box will have its own inventory, perhaps attached to is sendable via email, and we're looking up every single comic book and looking at the and then also heritage auctions, trying to find a low number more or less, to have some sort of reference point on each one, so
yeah. And I imagine, like, how many of those were like signed? Because I know that signed art is sometimes a little more valuable, or even notes or pre-art art.
Yeah.
Have you seen any other? Pardon?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, so I have seen signed, but they're, like my aunt, I think, tried to have my grandfather sign them. Barely, it was he could barely sign his name, and saying, I like the idea behind it, but it didn't really do it justice. By the time he was like, I want to say 70 plus, 75, which would have been, because he was born in 1911. Fast forward 70 years after that would be like the 80s. By the 80s, dude, so he didn't have the same person to have because he was really an illustrator and really a lettering guy and all that. You've seen some guys when they do pinstriping, their hand shakes, but then when they get that brush in their hand, they're able to hold it steady. But anyway, the fine art, thankfully, that's another category of that. There's amount of that fine art, and so it's just a challenge for me, because if it was my father directly, but it's my grandfather challenge there, in that I feel like it's a duty for me to. It's fairly like intensive, I want to say, to read it, but we will knock out the comic book magazines and books category milestone, to have those essentially a digital copy of what's in the inventory. We might be able to get into the fine art and have some sort of again, an inventory of what's there on the work.
So on the fine art, that's was that ever published, or was that just things that he did for himself? Or
yeah, it was published. It was absolutely published. The pages, and they're probably kind of like similar to the size of. They're I would say like 16 inches by maybe 20 inches tall. So like 16 by 20. So, and they're on paper, and they're single sheets. And then on that single sheet, there's a note on what page it is. So it's volume 7, page 1, and then page 2, page 3, page 4. So it's actually almost like when you put it in a portfolio, it looks like your pages of the comic book. Essentially, it's the actual original pages before the form of the comic book. They were drawn on a larger format paper. That paper was probably sent as a stack in a box to New York, perhaps, God, once a month or twice a month. I don't know of how often he sent out the books. Monthly comic book, I believe. I'm not. I should know that, but I don't. But there's a substantial amount, and at some point, Archie sent him back his original art. Thankfully, so there's definitely a few hundred pages of that original work, and some of it, if you search on eBay, original art by Bill Wagen, and then sometimes on Heritage Auctions as well. Bill Wagen original art. That category consists of a handful of public for sale, essentially by collectors. Just sometimes high marks, and sometimes fairly reasonable prices, like $3, $5, or $7, or $1,000 for a single page. It varies according to what's on the page, of course. So.
Well, yeah, I would imagine, like, if it's Katie Keene by herself, or Katie Keene with a very popular episode, or is it Katie Keene with some of these other characters? And
yeah,
that's a lot more unique. Those are the kind of things that you may want to hold on to, or maybe that's something that you're like, hey,
right.
this is a lot of money. It might be worth selling some of these to cash in a little bit.
Yeah, it's a super. I mean, trying to keep the collection together, because we've seen some other collections, like there's a collection, and the Promise collection was a young man who went to war, and unfortunately, and he left his comic collection to his brother, and then he at some point passed away. So family members found this comic book collection with comics in it, and it was really on the high grade of all. There was some Katie Keene stories within that, because comics and Wilbur comics prior to her own title. But so that collection, the books sometimes are for one comic, and they're in prestige, of course. That's the high marks come from the conditions are such that they're very perfect condition. Of course, they fetch more money. But
that's just that's interesting to me, because if your grandpa's doing Katie Keene and then someone else is drawing Archie, how does that come together on a single page? Or is it like one page one person does, one page another person does, or how do they get the Katie Keene in the same picture as Archie if there's two different artists?
Yeah, it is like when like I know my grandfather did a character called Susie, and then I think Betty and Veronica. So sometimes another artist was on another deadline or something, so they say, "Hey, Bill, do Susie this episode." So he would have to like probably reference this to him, reference a little style to draw her very in a previously to keep the line going, to keep her looking the same, essentially. So it is fascinating to characters that he did, as well as characters that weren't necessarily his characters. It was his original character, nor was Betty and Veronica in the art. They were done by, I think, either Don Dean or from the day, because these guys were all very, very active in the 1940s, 30s, early 40s, 1940s. They were super on, or like, working essentially the 9 to 5 artists, and some of them, I think, found themselves for, I think, close to probably Archie headquarters. In the case of Santa Barbara, they were on a family trip to Hollywood and get a little bit of reference material for my grandfather to Hollywood movie lots and watch people film films and do drawings and get some accuracy to his Bringwood. And they shortly thereafter moved to California and moved out to Santa Barbara. In 1980, Katie Keene took a Hollywood address, and so kids could send in theirs to Katie Keene at a Hollywood address, which was cool. Like, was it to send a letter and write Hollywood, California on it back in that end, so that must have been pretty fun for kids to essentially your whether if you're a boy, it's like your dream girl. What if you're a girl, your best friend or your idol essentially, or something,
Yeah, Hollywood is you hear a lot of stories, a lot of the actors that I enjoy now, the comedians and stuff, Jim Carrey or whatnot, how their story of going to Hollywood. Let's go to Hollywood and let's make our name. Let's get involved in the industry. And I think that's just such a unique idea of, let's go to this place because this is where everything's happening. And if you want to be involved in everything, you go to Hollywood or New York. New York used to be a big place. I think it still is for live theater and still is for production. And even they call in India, they got Bollywood, which is,
I know,
the
right?
Indian kind of, that's where people go in India if they want to be in movies.
Absolutely. And it's thrilling. It's, I found myself, thankfully I found the artist district because I was looking for a place to be in LA, and I didn't really, I'd see lists in my young, my early 20s, a lot of fellow friends in bands. And so they would sometimes people would relocate completely in the scene, and other times they would just do like drive down there and do a show and come back. But I went for myself like a fully immersive experience, and thankfully I found the art. So other artists were there, and so I felt kind of at home, and people that had like-minded spirits, whatnot. So I fit right in. And at the time, there was a few really cool players, like Jim Fittipaldi and Terry Ellsworth, and these guys, and Sean Thine, a place called Bedlam, and it was like a big, bigger than 20,000 square foot warehouse, like a basement a main floor, a floor with like a kid gallery and a bar and all that. So it was a really kind of like almost like a clubhouse vibe. Go hang out on weekends, and then they did a drawing workshop when I was there on Tuesday night. It was called the drawing workshop, and they had these girls, the gallery girl and Maritza Gomez would basically do to draw them. So they would set themselves up with their costumes. They would do long pose and sit there and let people draw them. And there became a couple hundred people would show up every Tuesday to draw the gallery girl. So that was that was fun.
So rather than like a school, it was just kind of a community thing. And I'm just picturing that, and I could just imagine, with artists having their unique perspectives, each person might put their own little spin on drawing the artist. Well, some person might be realist or surrealist, another person might be a little bit more abstract.
Yeah.
Someone might do pencil, someone might do all full color. Someone might even cartoonify it, like some of those caricatures. And I could just imagine, at the end of that drawing thing is going around and looking at each artist's perspective of that one individual person that's modeling. And I also imagine like maybe these models got a little bit of maybe fame or even fortune, possibly at least a modeling fee, I would hope.
Yeah, no, for sure. They passed the hat. Jennifer was always very not doing a cover charge at the door. They would do a pass the hat mid session and then pass the hat again, and so they would pass a donation type of thing. So they would make money, and they still the ladies still active in the art modeling community. And they're still doing girls in Los Angeles, they're called. And they oftentimes do sittings and different probably Otis, different schools that they sit at. We'll sit for sessions. Like figure drawing, of course, is like a big thing. Like you said, after the session was over, even mid-session, because it became a social event, where they're on the edges, peripheral, drinking, hanging out at the bar, watching it all go down. And some people were actually drawing on tablets at the time. It was like, this is probably like 2006, the early versions of computer, with a computer, which some people can, it's amazing how fast people can, of course, a drawing just traditional style, but people can render that just as faster and add color, add background, add all those things. So it's essentially a professional artist, trained artist can really knock out. I mean, it's not as fast as AI. Probably when you type in model gypsy style, and AI, it comes right out. But there's definitely that hone their craft and are traditionalists in terms of their.
I bet it was kind of a nice little spot to sell. I know I've been to a couple art shows in the art district, and of course the artists are there, but then the buyers are there, or the dealers are there, so that gives an opportunity for the artists to make, like you're saying, a profession out of their art. Not everyone's going to be hired by Hollywood or by the comic books to work full time. This is your job. Here's your weekly paycheck. Do the art. Like my grandmother sponsored an artist back in the day where she would, here's a couple $100, and regularly buy the art. And now I still have a couple of pieces left that are actually kind of valuable. And even like you can see this picture here. This is a famous artist that my mom actually trained with and worked with.
Nice.
And so I got that piece of art, which is kind of you can see, I don't know.
Looks like a person.
It's a Cheyenne.
That's a great piece. That's nice. Wow. That's strong. Yeah, semblance there. Yeah.
Interesting look.
Absolutely.
If I had my glasses, I could tell you it's a Cheyenne chief, little wolf.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing.
That
That's
may have
beautiful.
been an
Thank you for
actual
sharing that.
person. I don't know exactly who the artist was, but I just, I think it's just so fascinating. And like I was mentioning, I do have two pieces. They're actually in Summerland right now, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And I had one piece that disappeared. So I lost my dog. The dog, Happy Harry, is a Larry Moschino gold leaf original that is somewhere. Hopefully, it is probably in a yard sale somewhere because it disappeared out of my house.
Okay.
When I was on vacation.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's challenging keeping track of stuff. Even when you have it all together, like with my grandfather's collection. But you and putting the time in and focused on I want to say small goals with completion in mind. It completed, inventoried, logged, all that stuff. So it's a challenge. With the ADHD and all that, all that. To like complete a category. Why don't you? That way you could send me that inventory. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine if you're trying to get it in a museum or something, you would want to be able to say, "This is what we have."
This is what we have. Go back to that in terms of knowing what you have, knowing what kind of numbers you're dealing with, boxes, and if there's something extremely valuable, you definitely want to know you have to handing it over to someone else that without any idea of what you actually that whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge.
I can't believe it, Jericho. We've already gone 30.
I know
we're minutes almost.
Yeah, we're rock and roll. We're just discussing collections and comic books and art. Is what we do here. So like and subscribe, and this guy, check us out online. We're doing stuff out there. That's for sure. We're getting this is episode 51 of Coffee with the Summer. Cheers, you guys.
Yeah, I just want to mention the algorithm. I don't know how important that is, but I hear that if you like us on YouTube, that helps our algorithm. If you comment, that helps our algorithm.
Absolutely.
Sure, let's get into the algorithms of it.
Yeah, what's up? Thank you to Scott for sharing that. Scott shared us on a picture homepage on YouTube, which is freaking awesome. With us.
Awesome. Yeah, we're TV stars
on
now.
The block. Yeah, we're TV stars. Yeah, YouTube TV stars. Exactly. Rocking out.
Well, it's that time. We love you guys. Thanks for watching.
We love you.